Welcome back. 5:13 is your time. Investigators still don't know the motive behind the tragic shooting at King Soopers in Boulder. Yesterday, the Boulder District Attorney gave an update on their investigation. He spoke about the heroism of Boulder officer Eric Talley during the shooting. He says Officer Talley's actions, as well as those by other officers, saved lives.
No civilians were shot and killed after Boulder police officers and other law enforcement entered the King Soopers. Less than 30 seconds after Officer Talley was shot and killed, and the other two officers were victims of attempted murder, a second wave of officers then engaged and went into King Soopers. That is less than 30 seconds.
The DA announced an additional 33 counts of attempted first-degree murder to the charges against the accused shooter. The suspect also faces 10 new charges for carrying magazines with more than 15 rounds, which is illegal in Colorado. The DA says more charges will likely be filed in the coming weeks.
In Minnesota, there are more calls for justice and accountability in the death of Daunte Wright. The 20-year-old was laid to rest yesterday. He was remembered by his family as the life of the party with a contagious laugh.
My son had a smile that was worth $1 million. When he walked in the room, he lit up the room. He was a brother, a jokester. He was loved by so many. He's going to be so missed. The roles should completely be reversed. My son should be burying me.
George Floyd's family, Breonna Taylor's boyfriend, and Philando Castile's mother all attended the service. Wright was shot and killed by a police officer during a traffic stop. The officer, who has since resigned, is facing a charge of second-degree manslaughter.
A hate crimes bill to address a drastic increase in violence and discrimination directed at Asian Americans is headed back to the House. It passed the Senate yesterday in a 94-1 vote. Missouri Republican Josh Hawley was the only no vote. He said the bill was overbroad. The bill would expedite the federal review of hate crimes. The Justice Department would also coordinate with local groups to raise awareness about hate crimes reporting, including establishing an online system in several languages. If you live in the metro area or you only use a cell phone, you are very used to dialing 10 numbers to make a phone call. But for everyone else, it's a statewide requirement starting tomorrow. Denver 7's Micah Smith shows you what you need to know.
If you live in the 719 area code or 970 area code, you've been able to make calls by just dialing the phone number. No area code required. But that's changing. Here's why. A new nationwide phone number is coming next year. Starting in July of 2022, anyone in crisis will be able to dial 988 to reach the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. To create 988, some area codes across the country have to go to 10-digit dialing to prevent people from calling 988 by mistake. This doesn't just impact people making phone calls. It may impact your burglar alarm and fire alarm, possibly your call forwarding and voicemail. It may impact medical monitoring devices, and you need to add your area code on checks and even your pet's ID tags. You don't have to make the changes today. There's a 6-month grace period, but starting October 24th, you will have to dial 10 digits to have your call go through. Micah Smith, Denver 7.
And speaking of area codes, we're actually running out of 303 and 720 numbers in Colorado. The metro area will be getting a new area code either next year or in 2023.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Mission and liftoff. Godspeed at Denver and Crew 2.
That sight never gets old. So cool to see 4 astronauts on their way to the International Space Station. SpaceX launched its second commercial crew just about 4 o'clock this morning our time. 2 Americans, 1 French and 1 Japanese astronaut are all on board. They'll be doing medical research and updating the space station's solar power system.
NASA says the Mars rover Perseverance just turned science fiction into science fact. The space agency announced the rover successfully converted some of Mars' carbon dioxide-rich air into oxygen. The rover used experimental equipment to create about 10 minutes of breathable oxygen. The equipment separates oxygen atoms from carbon dioxide molecules, then passes carbon dioxide into the Martian atmosphere as waste. Mars' atmosphere is 96% carbon dioxide. NASA says more studies need to be done, but the breakthrough is a small step toward putting humans on Mars eventually.
Be wild. Back here on Earth, a small chance of rain, but otherwise a really nice weekend ahead, which I feel like we deserve after this week, Stacy.
We definitely do. Afternoon highs will be in the 60s and 70s this weekend. Lots of sunshine on the way. For the time being, though, we're going to see a few scattered showers later this afternoon. Highs in the 50s later on today. So we're slowly but surely warming things up here across the Front Range. And for our weather headlines, we're actually going to see that nice warm up here into the coming weekend. And it'll be warm and dry, but we will see those thunderstorms later this afternoon. 60s and 70s, though, return to the forecast even into the beginning of next week. Our next chance for rain and snow is on Tuesday of next week as another cold front rolls through the state. Temperatures really aren't too bad out there this morning. We've had some really chilly starts this week, and out there now we're right around 30s and 40s as you walk out the door early, and we'll be in the 50s later on this afternoon with some cloud cover here for our area. Now you'll notice we have some rain and some snow down to our south, stretching from Colorado Springs back towards Salida and in toward the Telluride area, and it looks like we'll continue to see that for a couple more hours as this system moves off to the east. But here in Denver, we're really just going to see the cloud cover this morning, and then we'll see a few scattered showers into the afternoon and evening. And we're going to have those temperatures remain in the mid to upper 50s later on today with those cloudy skies sticking around. So you can see how we have a lot of action here later on in the day, and into the evening we'll just hang on to the cloud cover and things will quiet down. So scattered showers later this afternoon. Don't be surprised if you see a little lightning or hear some thunder. Our temperatures will be in the mid 50s. And then for the Rockies game, it looks amazing through this evening. We'll have those temperatures in the 40s and 50s throughout the game and cloudy skies. So I think those storms will be a little bit earlier versus affecting the game in through tonight. Our overnight low tonight, 34 degrees with cloudy skies, and we'll have temperatures tomorrow mostly in the 60s here from Denver across the eastern plains. We'll have 70s farther to the south, 50s and 60s even up in the high country from Eagle to Aspen, 74 for Grand Junction. And our temperatures are going to remain very warm through the western half of our state. So we do have a fire weather warning in effect for Saturday, fire weather watches in effect for Sunday, and that's everything shaded in that tan color there from Trinidad to Alamosa. Our 7-day forecast keeping us in the 50s today, 60s on Saturday, and 70s for Sunday and Monday. We do cool it down on Tuesday thanks to that cold front. Our afternoon highs dropping into the upper 40s, but we're back to 60 degrees by next Wednesday with partly cloudy skies, and those upper 60s by Thursday with partly cloudy conditions as well, and overnight lows mostly in the 30s.
And really, we are looking really nice here across the roadways. Very light traffic at this point. It will start building up in a little while, but right now, going to the south side of town, whether it's along Santa Fe, whether it's down in downtown Littleton, take a look at Main Street in downtown Littleton as we're looking towards the west, towards Santa Fe, and so much drier than at this point yesterday when we were looking at these cameras. It is a much improved drive, not seeing the slick conditions like we saw, especially on the bridges yesterday. Down in Highlands Ranch, it also looks pretty nice. No issues for us down that way. It looks nice and quiet. And over at Highlands Ranch Parkway and University, Colorado, where it all comes together. Not seeing any problems through the Denver Tech Center. 225 speed still in the high 60s for the most part. Same thing happening across 270, but that'll be one of the first routes to load up 270 on either side of Commerce City.
A Colorado brewery is using some unusual ingredients in its latest creation.
Smoke-tainted water. We have smoke-tainted hops that are part of this.
How it hopes bad-tasting beer will tap into the conversation about climate change.
Also some good news if you've been enjoying work from home. Why one study says it's making us more productive.
Get Denver 7 News updates on your Alexa-enabled device. Add the Denver 7 News skill in the Alexa app, then say, "Alexa, what's my flash briefing?"
Welcome back at 5:25. American Airlines reports it lost more than $1 billion in the first quarter. The company says it's continuing to slash costs, including delaying deliveries of new jets as it waits for air travel to recover from the pandemic. American Airlines chairman and CEO, who is not President Biden, says demand for tickets is improving.
Some good news if you are enjoying working from home. A new study finds remote work is making us more productive, and it's largely thanks to the fact that we don't have to commute back and forth. The findings suggest the rapid adoption of new technology will offer lasting economic gains.
A group of businesses feeling cut out by the rebound: hair salons. We'll talk to owners about the restrictions still hurting their business.
And Denver police are coming up with creative ways to make our roads feel less like a Fast and Furious movie. The tactics officers are using to shut down street racing. Many college students will be adding coronavirus vaccine to their move-in checklist. Now on Denver 7 News at 5:30, we're going 360 on whether colleges can and should require a shot. Plus,
we can make sure that we keep this building safe, but at the same time, not feel like this is a prison.
Pretty wild, the Hall Pass is getting a 21st century upgrade. How one school is getting creative to fit the needs of the pandemic.
We smell it. I mean, I could literally taste it sometimes. I could feel it in my throat.
Progress for environmental activists who've been challenging the safety of this plant in Commerce City. Those activists are getting ready to make a major purchase to track pollutants in the area, and we'll tell you all about it. Welcome back. I'm Nicole Brady.
And I'm Brian Sanders. Good Friday morning to you. We are getting ready for the weekend with a nice warm up on the way. Here's Stacy Donaldson.
I think we're all going to enjoy some sunshine here for once for the weekend. 60s and 70s expected for afternoon highs. And right now it's not quite as cold as it has been the last few mornings. We're in the 30s here for the Eastern Plains, teens and 20s up through the high country. But at this point here in Denver, we've been up around 40 degrees for the last few hours. We're at 38 at DIA, and we mostly have 30s and 40s here for the Front Range, 20s off to the west from Georgetown into Dumont and Golden. Our satellite radar picture is pretty quiet. We'll see a few high clouds in through the rest of today and a few scattered thunderstorms later this afternoon. Down to our south toward Colorado Springs, we have some rain, and then as you go up in elevation, we have some snow. But here in Denver, we're going to see a few scattered thunderstorms later this afternoon. Otherwise, cloudy skies and a nice warm up headed our way for the weekend. I'll have that forecast, let you know exactly what to expect coming up.
Looking so much better at this point today than we saw yesterday. Not seeing the icy conditions, seeing pretty much dry roads anywhere you want to go, which is really helping us out. Now up to the north, let me take you to the camera up here by Berthoud, and you can see the construction has us weaving right and left and right and left and right. So it looks like a snake pattern up there right now. We will have a closure of northbound I-25 tonight at 9 o'clock, and that for some lane realignment just after Highway 34. So that's where it's going to be closed. You'll take the detour up to Crossroads, and that will be in place until 5 o'clock tomorrow morning. And if they need to, they might work again on Saturday night. Right now, the rest of the drive around Metro Denver looks great. Speeds on the high side, north, south, east, and west. No new problems for us on or off the highways.
This fall, some college students will need to check off an extra item on their to-do list before heading back to campus, getting the COVID vaccine.
And this morning, we're taking a 360 look as more colleges and universities are requiring it for the fall semester, including Fort Lewis College and the University of Denver. Both students and school leaders we talked to say the vaccine is necessary to return to normal.
It makes me feel a little bit more comfortable knowing everyone else is vaccinated.
But I think it's a good idea that they're doing it because I know they're doing everything they can to open up campus for next year.
But it's hard. It's difficult on students to really enjoy the campus and enjoy college life in the way that would help them be successful. So by having a requirement, we increase the chances that we can return to the things that we love about Fort Lewis College.
So both private and public institutions are legally able to set requirements, but public ones will have broader exemptions. Neither the University of Denver nor Fort Lewis College have vaccine requirements for faculty.
We want to hear from you about this. Should colleges and universities require vaccines? You can email us at 360@thedenverchannel.com. Well, if you think back to high school, you may remember the hall pass. You might even remember some teachers giving you some kind of creative object to carry to the bathroom with you. But sharing a pass like that among students during a pandemic, not so sanitary. I found out how one school is giving the hall pass a high-tech upgrade.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. How we doing, guys?
This year, just being in a classroom has become a rare privilege.
As usual, let's go ahead and start with our good things. Who's got a good thing today?
But of course, kids still need the occasional break. So Skyview Academy found an alternative to kids sharing a physical hall pass.
Scan this and then tap the link, and then you just fill out the form.
Students scan a QR code on their smartphones. If they don't have a phone, they can use the teacher's. While Vivian leaves class, over in the counselor's office, they know where she is and for how long.
I have data from all the way at the beginning of the school year. August, I think 6 is when we first came to Skyview.
The idea is if a student visits a counselor or heads off campus with friends for lunch, Skyview can keep track of their contacts and reduce the need for quarantines while COVID is still a threat.
So we don't have to shut down the whole high school if one person gets it.
The juniors at Skyview just read 1984, but Vivian doesn't feel like she's being watched. She said she'd rather limit quarantines.
So sophomores are going to get the skip day?
Teachers say the system is also helping to minimize overall disruptions to class and to learning.
There are times when you have kind of what we call the frequent flyer. And so this gives us a better opportunity to make sure that, hey, that student is not abusing the privilege, and we're giving them as much contact hours in the classroom as possible so that the instruction is meaningful for them.
And since pretty much every teenager nowadays has a smartphone, Skyview is finding other uses for the QR codes, like a fundraiser scavenger hunt.
We're utilizing it in more fun ways. We also utilize it for senior off-campus lunch, junior off-campus lunch, things like that, so that we can make sure that we keep this building safe, but at the same time, not feel like this is a prison.
And it didn't cost the school anything to implement this, so they say other schools could do something very similar if they want.
Denver police say they've seen a boom in illegal street racing. The Denver Post reports they're now trying several things to shut it down, from closing down lanes to flying the police helicopter. From 2017 to 19, officers arrested an average of 80 people per year for street racing. In 2020, they arrested more than 100, and so far this year, 24 people have been arrested. And it's about more than traffic. Illegal street racing can be deadly. Jessica Allen, a mother of two, died earlier this month when her car was hit by a street racer near 18th and Lawrence. The man who hit her was arrested.
People who live near the Suncor refinery in Commerce City are finally getting the oversight they've been demanding. The factory has been criticized in the past for large flares, yellow clouds, and even chemical snow. But activists say it's the pollution we don't see that could be causing the most damage. Soon they'll get a better picture through a payment from Suncor itself. Activists are using nearly $2 million of settlement money from a CDPHE lawsuit to set up new air monitoring devices. They can pick up as many as 50 different pollutants.
It'll give us reliable data about the pollutants in our air. It'll help us understand if there is a link between those pollutants and the health effects that people are experiencing. It's not somebody doing it for us coming into our community, but it's our own community doing it for ourselves.
The devices have not been purchased yet. Organizers are hoping once they are, the data can spark new conversations about the environmental impacts of the refinery. Colorado Democrats are looking to cut down greenhouse gas emissions. Senate Bill 200 will do 4 things. It sets rules for greenhouse gas emission reductions. It requires electric companies to present a plan to reach those goals. It establishes a greenhouse gas fee, and it creates a position for someone to promote environmental justice. Supporters say Colorado needs to have quantifiable, enforceable standards for cutting greenhouse gases. Opponents say it is unfair and takes away from the work electric companies have already been doing to accomplish goals set out by 2019 laws. Governor Polis is not supporting this bill right now. During a recent committee hearing, the governor's team said they are worried this will affect current efforts underway, and they don't agree with caps.
Yesterday was Earth Day, and it reminds us to be environmentally conscious. Well, now more companies are tapping into that consumer trend. As more people take notice of eco-friendly efforts, retail and manufacturing giants are pledging to be climate sensitive and wipe out their carbon emissions over time. I spoke with J.J. Winrick, a financial advisor, who says it isn't just a marketing ploy for these companies, but an effort to satisfy Wall Street investors and recruit new ones over time. He says many companies have done especially well with a heightened awareness for health over the past year.
You know, I don't want to get into specific companies, but whether you're talking about the solar space or the battery space or transportation, you know, there's a lot of different angles, you know, but a lot of those companies, you know, the good ones have really held their value and done pretty well, even as you've seen some of the speculation come out of the market in the first quarter.
So coming up at 8 o'clock on Denver 7 News over on Local 3, hear what he says you should look for if you're thinking of investing in popular eco-friendly companies, or what he calls green stocks. New Belgium Brewery in Fort Collins is hoping bad beer can start a conversation about the environment. It released this Torched Earth brew just for Earth Day. It's essentially smoky grain water, and as you can imagine, it tastes terrible, but that's the point.
What this beer does is it invites a conversation, and we hope in a lot of ways it drives a conversation. Let more people understand what the future of beer, but unfortunately the future of many things within our lives, is going to be like if we don't address climate change and address it rapidly.
New Belgium Brewery plans to be carbon neutral by the year 2030, and they hope this bad beer pushes other people and companies to do the same.
Well, changes are coming to the Scripps Spelling Bee. The additions to make sure there's a clear winner this year.
Also, ski resorts are looking to go green, how they hope a new fleet of snowmobiles will reduce their carbon footprint.
7 o'clock, 3, 2, 1. It's decision day on the future of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine.
States suspend shots at more at, I think. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Plus, the state suspends shots at more mass vaccination sites, this time in the Denver metro. But the clinics say there's confusion over correct protocol.
And a first for Denver. Spring Restaurant Week kicks off today. All right. Ready for the 7:30, 3, 2, 1. Many college students will be adding COVID vaccine to their move-in checklist. Now on Denver 7 News. Okay, this was just dragged over. 3, 2, 1. Many college students will be adding COVID vaccine to their move-in checklist. We're going 360 on whether colleges should require a shot. Plus,
3, 2, 1. The Hall Pass is getting a 21st century upgrade. How one school is getting creative to fit the needs of the pandemic.
and there's a battle over the best ways to combat climate change in Colorado. A look at the proposals being hashed out at the Capitol.
.543 this morning, Denver kicks off its first ever Spring Restaurant Week today. The big event comes as restaurants across the state will soon be eligible for more relief. Denver 7's Eric Lufer is live for us this morning. Billions of dollars up for grabs. Nice to hear.
Yeah, Brian, we're talking about a $28.6 billion restaurant revitalization fund here coming from the Small Business Administration. But this agency is hoping things go a little bit smoother than another program that it had started, the Venue Operators Grant Program. If you haven't heard of it, we're going to hear about it right now because it hasn't been going very smooth lately. The portal for that program crashed. That was earlier this month, about the first week of April. This was after applications opened up. That problem is expected to be fixed by next week. We'll see. Meantime, let's talk about the Restaurant Revitalization Fund, something restaurant owners in the metro area can take advantage of here soon. The SBA is saying there will be several ways for eligible businesses to apply, either through the agency's portal, which we know isn't necessarily reliable right now, but also over the phone, and through what the agency calls restaurant partners like service vendors and payroll processors. The agency is sending a message this morning, though, saying they want to get this right. They're actually going to launch a pilot program before they get this portal actually up and running for applications. They want to make sure it works before they start allowing restaurants to apply. So stay tuned. I'm in Denver. Eric Lufer, Denver 7.
All right, thanks, Eric. We've seen restrictions lifted for restaurants and gyms, but some businesses remain at 50% capacity, including hair salons. We spoke to some that say these limits are hurting business. Salon Theory in Denver temporarily closed for 8 weeks at the beginning of the pandemic. The salon lost 4 employees, but can't rehire because of capacity limits.
Overhead has stayed the same. It's gone up because we've had to open 7 days a week instead of our normal 5 days a week.
When we reached out to the Denver Health Department, a spokesperson said the city and county of Denver is abiding by the capacity standards established by the state's COVID-19 dial for level blue. Denver says it will reevaluate restrictions for personal services like hair salons when the public health order expires on May 16th.
Most blood banks in the U.S. are moving away from COVID-19 antibody screening and are no longer collecting plasma from survivors. Also, clinical trials are starting to show the plasma doesn't help much with COVID-19. Blood banks say they're now worried about a shortage of regular blood donations since the pandemic has shut down many blood drives.
Nearly over a year into the pandemic, and more medical professionals are leaving the field. A poll from the Washington Post and Kaiser Family Foundation finds about 3 in 10 healthcare workers have thought about leaving. More than half are burned out. About 6 in 10 say stress from the pandemic has harmed their mental health. Experts warn the lack of medical professionals could make healthcare more expensive, less accessible, and worse in quality.
If you have old prescriptions, don't throw them away or flush them down the toilet. Tomorrow is Prescription Drug Take-Back Day. Several police departments, sheriff's departments, Walgreens, King Soopers locations, and even the Smoky Hill Library are hosting prescription drop-offs tomorrow from 10 to 2. You can do a web search for Prescription Take-Back Day, and you can enter your zip code to find a location near you.
A place that has served the Golden area since the mid-1800s is getting new life as a food hall. Denver 7's Micah Smith has this week's What's That?
For the past 160 years, this old mill in Golden has been a community gathering place. First, it was an actual mill, then a feed store, and for nearly 2 years it sat empty. But recently, a new type of business that took over the space has locals asking, "What's that?" This is the new Golden Mill, a food hall with a twist that's owned by 5 Golden residents. Not only were the owners able to transform the space into a home for 5 restaurants and 2 bars, but the new food hall also features the first and only rooftop patio bar in Golden. The owners say their plans don't stop there. They plan to host live music events and pop-up markets in the space as well. If all of that piques your interest, you can visit the Golden Mill and check it out yourself. It's open every day from 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. See something interesting and want to know what it is? Send us an email at ourco@thedenverchannel.com, and don't forget to put "What's That?" in the subject line. Reporting in Golden, Micah Smith, Denver 7.